Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and it is time for the wide receiver rankings for the 2025 NFL season. And I have no clue what this is going to end up looking like. The only thing that I have done as I put them up after I did my projections for the season, and then my projections are projections, and there are things where when it all pans out, there's a reason I do rankings and don't just submit projections. Also, I have this group down here, the not top 50 guys. These guys we're doing roughly my top 50. I think there's more than 50, I should say roughly my top 48, 12, 24, 36, 48, like kind of up to my flexes in a 3 wide receiver system technically. But these are the guys who I don't foresee being ranked in my top 50 when all is said and done, for sure. And that's Deebo Samuel, because of high injury risk. I shouldn't say for sure. Deebo Samuel is definitely on the right on the edge of the cutting block, but injury concerns and everything like that, he's not going to be the number 1 wide receiver, in that system. I think he's a little bit gadgety probably for them again. So efficiency should be good. Reliability, game in and game out, probably not the greatest, and regular usage, like he's a guy who I would feel better about in non-PPR. Probably might put him in top 50. This is, by the way, half PPR, so full PPR and everything look differently. Demario Douglas, I think it's, he was borderline top 50 last year. I don't know that he really does a whole lot better fantasy-wise. And then you got Christian Kirk. Tough to say. Look, he could definitely be a top 50 guy, just as any of these 3 could. And then I think I feel fairly confident that Jacoby Myers is definitely not going to be getting the same amount of target share that he got last season. And yeah, I think he becomes on the other side of being a top 50 receiver this season, but he's another guy who could make it. Then I almost certainly will not be giving Stephon Diggs, because he's going to be coming back from injury and everything, a top 50 ranking. DeAndre Hopkins, age, not going to be the primary target there. Once again, I like his addition into this offense and all, but I just think fantasy-wise, not going to be a game changer at all. Stephon Diggs could be as the season goes along, but because he's going to be missing time to start the season and everything, and just not expecting him to be the same Stephon Diggs, and I think they're probably using him as like the deep threat Stephon Diggs, it sounds like, and I don't know that will result in some great fantasy days. Inconsistent for sure. Bite you in the butt if you use him a week after he happens to have a big game, would be my best guess for that. So I kind of want to stay away from that. And then Rashid Shaheed also going to be missing some time due to injury, coming back, not going to be his same explosive self throughout much of the season, any of the season. Also, different offensive coordinator. He sure was really worked well in the system there of the, I can't think of his name right off the top of my head right now. I know it. Luke, nope, that's not right. The offensive coordinator that was with them is now in Seattle. I don't think we ever see Rashid Shaheed be as effective as it was last year. We'll just say it like that. So that's going to bring us on to the rest of this. My first tier, though, is Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, A.J. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., T. Higgins, Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins. That's my first tier coming in. Tiers will change. We'll probably add a couple of tiers in here. Things will have to change. But Jamar Chase, number 1 wide receiver, he was my number 1 last year. Usually I don't do same back-to-backs, but I think I'll probably leave him as my number 1 again this year. Justin Jefferson right behind him, Puka Nacua right behind that. No arguing there, really. Puka Nacua actually came out as my number 1 wide receiver last year, based on a little bit of cherry picking is how it works essentially, but it's like accurate what you can expect from a full game. He was a beast, an absolute beast, and I don't know that really changes this year. A.J. Brown, obviously going to stick in this group. Now, do I like A.J. Brown more than Puka? He's been able to stay healthier than Puka, and I think that's just what it comes down to. do trust him to stay a little bit healthier than Puka. But AJ Brown also has like knee issues and everything that I feel like he'll have like end up having a shorter career because of that or something. But I don't know how much that popped up last season. So maybe his knees have finally gotten like maybe they're the best they've felt in years. Brian Thomas Jr., my big concern with him is the usage when Trevor Lawrence was the quarterback. It wasn't the same as when his other quarterbacks were the quarterback. So I'm probably going to keep him behind Puka. Just out of a little bit of hesitancy and concern. But going to probably remain in this tier. Then we got T. Higgins, who had a really, really good season, and I don't want to discount that too much. So we're going to move him to the back of this tier. Might move him to the front of the next tier. But Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins. That's tough. So Nico's like a little bit touchdown reliant compared to Malik Neighbors, which makes sense, especially for half PPR. Full PPR, I think I would go Malik Neighbors for sure. Non-PPR, I would go Nico Collins for sure still. And then, that's tough. In half PPR, I like to lean a little bit into like this. But the quarterback situation for Malik Neighbors specifically, it concerns me a little bit how... the only thing is I go back to thinking about like Tyler Lockett in his prime days. It's pretty good. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. T. Higgins is the outlier. He doesn't quite fit in with that argument, but very good. Let's just put him at the top of this tier for now. Amon St. Brown probably should be into this argument, right? Maybe we could leave. So Rashee Rice, when he's healthy, absolutely was fantastic. Absolutely was better than these guys. He is coming off of a major injury. So the good news here about the Rashee Rice, it was LCL. So I am not as concerned about him returning to his true self. On a week in and week out basis, after you miss some time, I expect him to be better than T. Higgins. And I think he has the potential to be better than Amon St. Brown. But if that wide receiver room is healthy, Marquise Brown and Xavier Worthy combination should remove a little bit of what we were getting before the injury from Rashee Rice last year. But T. Higgins also gets injured every year and misses time. So that's what I'm going to do there. Drake London, definitely a non-PPR type of guy compared to PPR, but he does get a huge amount of the workload, and I don't expect that to change. Devontae Adams, another year older. How did he do compared to Drake London last year? All right, so they were like the same last year, and I got to say, I do think... better quarterback, right? T. Higgins, Adams. Is this too high on Devontae Adams? Should he not be behind? He's been more reliable than T. Higgins. And to be honest, coming into the season with Rashee Rice, boy, am I too high on Devontae Adams? I don't know, because I feel like this is a situation where it probably depend in half PPR, though I don't know yet. That's close. CeeDee Lamb, probably got to move him ahead. Now, not going to have Dak Prescott to start the season. And you add in a good wide receiver. I don't know that that really hurts him. Where did he go compared to Amon-Ra last year? Amon-Ra was 7th overall in my rankings. CeeDee Lamb was 10th. Yeah, I don't know. That's close, too. Chris Godwin, I think we can consider that to be a new tier. Let's add a tier below here. So I think we'll put Chris Godwin out of that tier. I think I'm going to have Travis Hunter outside of that tier. I will explain myself. Potential over Chris Godwin, maybe. Terry McLaurin, I think we can keep in that tier. Obviously, we'll keep our eye on how the offseason goes. He is a contract situation. They're going to get that figured out. In which case, I do think we go ahead of Drake London, but right in that grouping. Ahead of T. Higgins? I don't know. Mike Evans, getting a year older, I think it's a different offensive scheme definitely touchdown reliant. But does that leave him outside of Drake London? I don't know. Tyreek Hill, obviously he's fantastic. He's coming off of a pretty down year. I don't think I can keep him. I don't think I can push him out of this tier, though. DK Metcalf, I really expect quite a bit from this year. But I don't know that I can put him in the same tier. I don't know. Let me think about that. I'm going to probably put Ladd McConkey, though. Honestly, I think I'm going to have Ladd really high. Is this too high for Ladd? JSN. Okay, JSN over DK Metcalf. I'm going to have to think of these things. I think Pickens we can move down a tier. And then we'll probably move a couple guys up a tier. Okay, so looking at this tier, I feel pretty comfortable up to Drake London. And then Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, JSN, I'll be right back with. All right, so I'm back. And I think I'm going to move Tyreek Hill ahead of Mike Evans. DK Metcalf ahead of Mike Evans. All of these guys I really expect to finish in that 15 to 20 tier. You think of last year, Devontae Adams was wide receiver 15 with, honestly, with more other talent around him in the New York Jets, with Aaron Rodgers throwing to him than DK Metcalf has surrounding him. But he's, still expect him to finish in that grouping. Tyreek Hill just might be falling a little bit. It might just not be the same anymore. But I still am going to take a gamble on that over Mike Evans on a week in and week out basis. Depending on the matchup, essentially. And I think I will take the consistency of JSN over Mike Evans' touchdown reliance. Mike Evans, non-PPR, Jackson Smith, full PPR. Half PPR, which side of the table do you rely on? Do you want the guy who's going to get 2 touchdowns a game sometimes, or do you want the guy who's going to have a minimum of 7 catches in a game? That's kind of the difference between the two. Then we have our other tier here, which is the Travis Hunter, Chris Godwin, George Pickens. So Chris Godwin coming off of injury. They drafted another wide receiver. I don't know how well that bodes well for him. George Pickens, I do like the situation, but we're going to be starting the season probably without Dak Prescott, and you do have CeeDee Lamb, so George Pickens will be inconsistent, but I do anticipate him to probably have a better year than he had in Pittsburgh. And then Travis Hunter I wish they were just focusing in on him on offense, and I would feel better about it. You have Brian Thomas Jr. there as well. He's going to be learning both sides of the ball, probably playing both sides of the ball. I do not expect him to stay healthy all season long, but he is really talented, so I'll probably take him over Chris Godwin and George Pickens. That's going to bring us on to this next tier of players. We have Jameson Williams. He was touchdown reliant. He's coming off of a good season. I know I'm going to have him lower than at least several of these guys, so I'm just going to move him down right off the bat. Garrett Wilson, going to have, I don't know that it's any bit of an improvement at wide receiver, but there is still a lot of opportunity there. How did he do last year? At the end of the day, he was like wide receiver 20. I think the potential is still higher than Travis Hunter's potential. Maybe. Calvin Ridley, I think probably has as good of a year, but better than last year. But it's definitely a risk. He was wide receiver 41 last year, right? So we're going to just go right ahead. We're going to move DJ Moore up ahead of these guys. We move Devontae Smith up ahead. Move Jordan Addison up ahead. We're going to move Zay Flowers up ahead. We'll get to bring in maybe some names up. Chris Olave, let's just bring up right off the bat. Chris Olave, I believe I would still take... Honestly... Who's he going to have throwing to him? Not great, but I mean, look at what Malik Neighbors did last year, not saying he's Malik Neighbors. Okay, as high as here? Am I going to be high on Chris Olave again this year? Ugh. We'll see. We'll see. I'll see what I'll probably like temper where I have him in my rankings based on where the public's at on him, because the public's going to be lower than this, I assume. Jeez. I assume. They're going to be lower than that. All right, so back to this group. I think we can say we're going to move DJ Moore up there for right? These groups should be up with Garrett Wilson up to about that point. DJ Moore ahead of George Pickens, yes. Ahead of Chris Godwin, I think yes. I think ahead of Travis Hunter yet. For Devonta Smith, George Pickens, he's going to have his quarterback all season. Chris Godwin, I'll be interested to see. I think he's going to miss a little bit of time to start the year. But I'll keep him behind Travis Hunter. I think there's more chance of Travis Hunter just being more reliable week in and week out than that. Jordan Addison, he's potentially going to miss a game or 3, I would say. He's definitely into this George Pickens, Chris Godwin area. Man, Chris Godwin is coming off of one heck of a year, though. I can't undersell that enough. I shouldn't undersell that too much. And then Zay Flowers, is he behind or ahead of Jordan Addison? I think you got to put him ahead of Jordan Addison by a little ways. George Pickens, do you remain in this tier? Or are you more like these guys? Maybe you're more like these guys. And Calvin Ridley has a chance of being more consistent, so I'll take that chance. Same with Courtland Sutton? Question mark. Okay, so Marvin Harrison, I think we got to move up ahead of Jameson Williams for sure. Cooper Kupp, I think yes. George Pickens, I think yes. I'm going to move Marvin Harrison Jr. all the way up to about here. I'll be interested to see where the public's at on him. I could see going higher. I could see going lower. There's an element of projection and risk-taking with drafting Marvin Harrison. You're almost certainly going to have to pay for some level of projection, and I am going to project in him having a better year than last year. So I really like Roman Wilson a fair bit this year to surprise. I think he could be better than Cooper Kupp. Am I willing to say he will be at this point in time? No. But I do think that he could be. So I'm going to move him into that same tier. And I know I'm going to be high on that. But I think he gets more targets than Jameson Williams. Touchdowns, a horse apiece. Probably same with Cooper Kupp there. Jack Best should be the leading receiver by the end of the season for Las Vegas. They've got a good quarterback there. He should be right in this conversation with Courtland Sutton, Calvin Ridley. I think Juwan Jennings, I would probably take over Jameson Williams without trying to think of that too hard. Yeah, he's coming off. He was wide receiver 17 last year, you know. Probably going to be the leading wide receiver for a certain period of time in San Francisco, potentially the entirety of the season. Even after that, he would be like the wide receiver 2, just like Roman Wilson is. So I think I'll take him over that. I think I'll take him over this. He's going to start off the season probably being better than George Pickens. I think I'll go like that. Maybe now we're entering wide receiver 2 territory. Does this make more sense? Does Jack Best actually fit into this tier? Okay, so I'm just going to straight up move Darnell Mooney down a tier, and I think at the very least there, I think we'll move Tedderell McMillan, Josh Downs up a tier here. I'm going to move Jaden Higgins to the top of there for now. Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be back here. Keon Coleman's going to be back somewhere around here. I might actually take the risk on him. And then Trey Harris, I do like the opportunity there. We'll see where that lines up. Okay, so that leaves us with, I think we enter, oh wow. Is this a tier? What's the tier break here? Where is it between these two groups? Is it all one big group? It might be. So I think we're back to the normal amount of rows that I started with, just got there differently. So for this tier, Jalen Waddle, do I want to take the risk on him over some sort of shallow, a higher floor for Jerry Jeudy maybe? I struggle to take that. So I think Marquise Brown will be at least better than those guys. He came in off the bat, was quite good. He should, well, he'll probably be the wide receiver 2. So once again, yeah, we're in that group of guys. Jerry Jeudy is the wide receiver 1, but it's, I don't trust it throughout the entirety of the season either. Xavier Worthy, I think we'll keep him behind Jerry Jeudy. Game in and game out, Jerry Jeudy better. In individual games, Xavier Worthy better. Khalil Shakir better than both. Better than Jalen Waddle probably. Trust him more than Roman Wilson. Trust him more than Cooper Kupp. They didn't really change their wide receiver room. Trust him on a game in and game out basis more than Pickens. I think I will keep Marquise Brown ahead of Shakir though. And then Tedero McMillan, unknown. Bryce Young did improve a lot throughout the year. For now, I'm going to put him there. And Josh Downs. So I do have a concern about Josh Downs' usage compared to last year with them getting a tight end. They do attack the same area of the field plenty. So that is a concern. I also love Josh Downs. I'm going to keep him right there. Because Xavier Worthy is going to be the gadget guy who can also go deep when that wide receiver room's healthy. And so Jaden Higgins, I think, becomes a wide receiver 2 right off the bat. By the end of the season, could he outduel Cooper Kupp? I think so. Could he be better than George Pickens? I mean, I think so. Is there less competition in a sense than Josh Downs? Maybe. Is it a better offensive situation than Tedero McMillan? I don't know. And Tedero McMillan has the advantage of being potentially a wide receiver 1. So I think that's where we'll stop the rise of Jaden Higgins. Matthew Golden, I do expect to be quite inconsistent. I will put him ahead of Jameson Williams, and that's where I think I would also want him over Xavier Worthy. So I will maybe move Xavier Worthy down and Jerry Jeudy down, or maybe I need to move him up. Yeah, I think actually he's got to move up. Okay, so I'm going to figure out the rest of this tier, and I'll be back. This could all become one big tier or one larger tier and a smaller tier. All right, so here's where I'm at so far. I have moved Xavier Worthy just barely down to this tier with Michael Pittman, Jameson Williams, Darnell Mooney, Keon Coleman. Arguments for all of them to be in a higher tier. I would not disagree with that, but I have to make decisions. And part of those decisions are me trying to predict the future. And so I'm going to make a few bold calls here, as I do with my wide receivers. Rome Odunze, second year. Is it right here? Is that what it is? Behind George Pickens? Ahead of Cooper Kupp? Is ahead of Cooper Kupp asking for too much? Probably. Ahead of Roman Wilson, though, yes. Jalen Waddle ahead of Roman Wilson. I mean, it was bad for Waddle last year, but my projections have him as 27th. He was 50th, though, last year. I'm going to move him here for now, and I understand that people will definitely have him higher than some of these guys that I have him below for Waddle. Matthew Golden, it's an offense that wants to run first. Same with Roman Wilson. Okay, so we'll put him up ahead of Roman Wilson. Rome Odunze, I think we have to accept that there's obviously more potential for Matthew Golden than these guys. Do I think he'll get more targets than Josh Downs? That could be close. Touchdowns, though? Probably yes. More. He's right into this group. So Houston also wants to return to the run quite a bit more. Carolina, Ted McMillan or Matt Golden? That's close, huh? That's close. Then we've got Jerry Jeudy. Cleveland also wants to return to the run. I have a little bit more hope for Roman Wilson. I know that it is hope. It is hope. And then Trey Harris, who I like quite a bit, doesn't go till the third round in the draft, but it's going to the Chargers. It's a good situation. I think it's a better situation than Roman Wilson. I think he's definitely worthy of being in that conversation with Odunze, Waddle. Yeah, we're right there. We're right there. We'll perfect this some other day. I think that's it. Those are the rankings for the wide receivers. Jamar Chase. We're just gonna cut it off there. I'm not gonna sit here and pick this apart because I could. I definitely could. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown. So, my top 20 wide receivers are going to be the S and the A tier. That's Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins in the top of that tier. All guys who I would be surprised if they're not wide receiver ones, right? And that's pretty true for the early portion of this next tier. CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Would be really shocked if they're not wide receiver ones. Maybe that should be the quality. Maybe we should do that again too. Then we got Devontae Adams, Ladd McConkey, Rashee Rice, T. Higgins, Terry McLaurin, Drake London, DK Metcalf, Chris Olave, Tyreek Hill, JSN, Mike Evans. I would say, especially up through like Tyreek Hill, maybe pretty confident that any of these guys could be your wide receiver 11, 12. 13, 14, 15. Top 15 guys, definite top 15 vibes throughout the top 20. And then I think we're starting to say, yeah, I would not be surprised if these guys are not top 15. That's Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, Travis Hunter, Devonta Smith, Chris Godwin, Marvin Harrison Jr., Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Calvin Ridley, Cortland Sutton. Could they be top 15? Yes. Could they be very close to top 15? Yes. And then we're going to get into a group where I'm pretty sure we're not talking, like on a weekly basis, you're not competing with any of these guys within the A tier there, the Mike Evanses of the world. I think we're in a different class by this point. And this is going to be our top 40-ish. From Juwan Jennings down to Jerry Jeudy, we have our top 45 then. So we're basically into like flex territory, I would just say. That's Juwan Jennings, Marquise Brown, Khalil Shakir, Tedero McMillan, Matthew Golden, Jack Besh, Jaden Higgins, Josh Downs, George Pickens, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, Rome Odunze, Trey Harris, Roman Wilson, Jerry Jeudy. Could some of these guys perform as top 24 names? For sure. But also, I think there's a decent chance that they're more so flex guys. And then we have wide receiver 46 through 50 going into Keon Coleman. So 46, 47, 48, 49. Yeah, I did that right. Xavier Worthy, Michael Pittman, Jamison Williams, Darnell Mooney, Keon Coleman. These are names where I would be surprised if they're top 24. Like, I don't think we're at top 24 anymore possible. And I do think that I would consider Deebo Samuel, DeMar Douglas, Christian Kirk, Jacoby Myers to be in this same tier roughly, but also obviously at the bottom of that tier. And then Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, Rashid Shaheed. I'll probably have more names between Jacoby Myers and those names to some extent. So there you go. That is it for the 2025 wide receiver rankings. Thank you for tuning on in. More will be coming. We will definitely be doing some live things. By the way, if you're still here, in the description there are links to this list, and it could be updated already by the time this video comes out to some extent. But at the bottom of that list, we'll show you the last time that list was updated. If it is June 17th, then it hasn't been updated, and it's exactly what you saw in the video. Regardless, that's the list. That link will be updated throughout the entirety of the offseason, so keep that handy if you want to check out my rankings from time to time leading up to your drafts. And I was saying something else. I cut myself off. Who cares? We'll end it there. Bye-bye. Oh, I remember I was about to announce in the future we will be starting to do some live shows probably some mock drafts. So tune in for those. I will try to put announcements up at least for those. So subscribe to get those announcements. Bye-bye.